Greetings to you all. My sincere gratitude goes to the Pan Africa Center for AI Ethics Summer School, which is my alma mater. It's commendable team, my boss, Oga Kingsley, and my ghost friend, Lois, for this warm invitation to speak about a crucial topic surrounding the Africanization movement in digital activism. Apologies to everyone as I am joining this call with my phone due to some technical hitches I have with my laptop, and
Hey,
I'm
sorry.
also unable. Yes,
Go
are you
ahead,
talking to me?
continue. No, not at all.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'm also unable to um, turn on my camera or share my screen. However, we have a bit of remedy because Mr. Kingsley offered to assist with that, and he will be displaying the slides, which I also prepared with my phone, and it's quite dry and a bit boring. But I promise you that what really matters is the content. So I beseech everyone to kindly pay attention and follow me through the course of the um, discussion today. So the topic for today's session is cross-border data governance and AI accountability. I decided to put the African-centric roadmap in brackets because although the focus is global south generally, I want to narrow down the discussion to just the African perspective. Please, Mr. Kingsley, if you don't mind, can you give us the number two instead of number
Okay,
one? Yes,
okay.
thank you. Okay, great. So I'll start by saying that the rapid expansion of AI actually transcends national borders and is demanding not just industry self-regulation or fragmented state rules. And this is why the international community has long started reacting to these demands. So in this slide, I decided to pick two instruments or frameworks. We should also note that the first one, which is the UNESCO recommendation on ethics of AI, is non-binding, although it's based on international customary law. And there are certain norms or values that were identified or highlighted as important when considering AI governance. So it includes human rights, justice, um, diversity, and environment. I hope you can all hear me, right? Then,
Yes, loud and
um,
clear. Yeah, continue.
okay. Then we also have the Council of Europe AI Convention. I decided to put this as part of the global framework because although it is continental, it is transregional because it is open to any country or state that wants to be a signatory to it. And this is how EU has been acting so far because its game around extraterritoriality is top notch. So by doing that, it gets other states to commit to their own policy around AI. But if we have these frameworks already, I know that the question will be then why are we then discussing about the African perspective? Quite all right, as I've earlier mentioned, AI is inherently transboundary because not just in policy or regulatory aspect, but also the technology technology spread across different territories and cannot be restricted, even if it's being restricted, nodes or users can have means in which they can access the technology. So, because of this issue of the transboundary nature or characteristics of AI, it is imperative for us to speak of national or continental approach to AI governance. And the whole idea, as I've highlighted, that's for me. It can be different for any individual, but for me, I see it as AI race, which subsumed the passive state. So where you're open to signing, committing to, say, European approach to AI governance, that's you being passively subsumed, because each superpower has its own priorities in what it means, in what technological advancement and AI governance might mean to them. For example, we have seen the recent move in the US, and they are definitely bent towards deregulation of AI, while in the EU, with the AI Act and the tons of digital regulations, we can rightly or safely conclude that they are focused on regulatory oversight. However, this is with the aim of ensuring that human rights is being protected. And then we have from Asia, we can use China, for example, which their focus can be seen concerning state oversight. So, considering that all these countries or superpowers have their priorities, is also important that Africa, step forward to make their own position clear and not be subsumed by superpowers in the AI race. And we have issues surrounding global norms. Although, like I've mentioned earlier, we have the international frameworks that guide in AI governance. However, most of them are not binding. So they are even mostly ethically focused. So there exists a gap, and this gap will definitely affect us Africans, because we all know how diverse Africa is, even though the discussion on the global stage has been that, oh, Africa is being represented and heard, but one country cannot represent Africa, right? And because of certain coded collaborations, we cannot be said to have participated in the drawing up of AI governance globally. So there's also the risk of data colonialism and techno-colonialism, where the dictates or the ways of European reigns that we have experienced over centuries could or have the risk of repeating itself through technology, and not just technology, but through law or policy itself. And then there's also the need to align innovation with African values. So this is why this discussion matters to us today, and there are other reasons that I might or may have not covered. So I gave some examples so that to show that indeed there are some use cases that support this Africa first approach. So we can see that in assistive or predictive and automated decision making, AI tools in the healthcare, in financial, justice, governmental, educational, welfare and recruitment sectors have impact. And as I've noted, history is data, and we know history has not been quite representative. It's biased, so there will be a lower representation of blackness in training data, which will reinforce the um, the socio-economical, financial, and decision-making, or health and gender discriminations that could or is even this that would disadvantage Black communities or people, and even marginalized within that Black community. It can also marginalize smaller groups such as women, the vulnerable, like disabled, people with disability, or children. And also, there are harms related to privacy, security, and human rights. So, as I've noted, there these areas where AI is being deployed in other jurisdictions, like the EU, for example, there is strict regulatory scrutiny regarding the application of AI in those areas, and in fact, some are even prohibited. But let me give an example of what I saw recently, which actually it vexed me because we didn't receive any public invitation, consulting people regarding the application or the desire to put that into application. So there's this, I think ChatGPT wise or so they named it, that they said government parastatals will be using in Nigeria without conducting any risk assessment or public consultation. And that's how it has always been. In fact, the military used, sometimes they use autonomous weapons in Nigeria. There was a case in Maiduguri, for example, where that happened, but it's not made known to the public, where the drone killed civilians, the citizens, instead of the targets. So issues like this, where Africans just deploy any AI tool that they feel might be helpful to or might make the work efficient, is should strictly not be allowed. So discussions like this that we are having today can be a means of activism to stop the involvement of states in using AI tools. That we see these cases firsthand across Africa. I gave example with Nigeria, and there are examples in Kenya, in South Africa, in Rwanda, and different places across Africa where we just use AI tools that we import for high risk or high stake applications. That was what I was explaining. So slide 3, please. So below are some of the ways we as Africans, we can start taking hold of our future in this race. And in the objective section that will be coming afterwards, I will explain how. But for now, these are some of the ways. We should uphold territorial sovereignty and cultural identity. These issues have been recognized and they are even allowed by international law. So it's possible to contextualize the law within our peculiarities, and surveillance, talent extraction in the name of collaborations, and also bias should be prevented. And we can also consider jurisdictional gaps for cross-border harms to try to close them and fill in the gaps. So let's briefly look at the national strategies that have been adopted by some African countries, because it won't be fair to be mentioning all the problems like deployment without public consultation, without also highlighting that African countries have actually made certain moves, even though they are not, to the best of my knowledge, there's no policy binding policy regulatory framework or policy currently governing AI in Africa. They are mostly strategies. Um, so we will start with the national, because at the end of the day, even if we're going to do the African first approach, nationally, countries should have AI governance frameworks or policies that can facilitate the use of AI within their own states, then before the regional or continental. At the continental level, we have the AI strategy, and we have the Malabo Convention can actually come into play, because it's about data protection, and we know that AI is tied to data. In fact, this is what this session is all about, right? Data governance is needed, because while training AI, sorry, please. While training AI, and also in the means of deployment, data is involved. So let's look at Rwanda, Nigeria, Kenya, and South African strategy briefly. The Rwanda strategy focus on several sectors like health, agriculture, public admin, education, manufacturing, banking, e-commerce, etc. While the Nigerian strategy aims at economic growth, then technological leadership, social inclusion. Yes, that's always the word, to be a tech leader. But at the end of the day, it's not about just stating it in strategies alone, but also showing plans and implementation. Like for example, the Nigerian strategy, to the best of my knowledge, up to today, we do not have anything under the implementation page. So, and you know that strategy implementation is a crucial aspect for any strategy, but it's missing. Then Kenya focus on sustainability, growth, inclusion, and also it wants to be a research hub. And then South Africa focus was on economic growth, societal well-being, and it wants to be an innovation leader. In all this, to the best of my knowledge, again, let me put the caveat. In all this strategy, I have observed that there is little or no emphasis on cross-border data governance and AI accountability. Although, yes, we know that these are really controversial aspects of AI governance, especially the accountability part, but I mean, no effort, serious effort was being made to spell out how these things can be achieved. So we can move on to yes, thank you. For the objectives that I was given, I tried to bring out certain elements that we can quickly discuss. The first one is concerning policy and corporate responsibility. And I like the fact that the topic given to me was not just focused about policy, because at the end of the day, it starts with the state itself, the government agencies, the bodies and the parastatals, the civil society, and also private entities such as companies, and also the citizens, because everybody, all the entities or parties have to be stakeholders, have to be carried along for AI governance to scale through. So there can be a harmonization of African Union and national AI laws with African context, stating clearly our stance surrounding data sovereignty, um, localization plans, and also issue around liability. And then there can be embedded in it enforceable corporate duties alongside regulators. And this is where, once we have that foundation um, properly established, then it is possible to now start going outside Africa, like try to create recognition agreement mechanisms, cooperation mechanisms that can help in enforcement. And then for the corporate actions, companies or whoever that is involved in data training, data mining, anyone involved even with the deployment should be involved. So there should be a mapping of data origins and local law clauses in contracts, especially contracts that involve vendors coming from outside of Africa. And then um, publication of audit results and impact assessments, which should be done not just internally, but also by third parties. There should be joint liability with local partners, that's local actors here. Imagine, like in the instance of the vendor that I was talking about, in the clause, there should be clear liability arrangements where, because we know that AI involves different entities, there can be the deployer can be different from the provider, and so on. It's pertinent for all the parties, the liability, how they come into play, their duties throughout the life cycle of the application should be noted in order to rightly assign each party with its liability. I know, yes, this is really controversial as we have seen it in the EU. Like currently, the AI liability directive has been suspended because of this problem, and that's the issue with big tech. So it's likely that this lobbying, I'm not sure what caused it, but the AI liability directive eased the burden of proof on the affected party because of the nature of AI. So that means it creates more burden on the tech company. So policies like that will hardly fly. But I mean, African market is really large. So we can use our population power to insert some of these clauses, or rather these laws or principles into our laws and negotiate it. If not, regulatory arbitrage will be inevitable, where the other part of the world, I mean, tech companies will tend to follow the rules in the other part of the world, like in the EU, and then do anything they like on our shows. So we have to take an assertive position regarding that. And then there can be a creation of Pan-African dispute bodies within Africa that can even, just in case of enforcement, which is really difficult relating to AI, since it's transboundary. But when we have agencies or bodies that are responsible for that, they can even ensure.
Well,
No problem. We can. There can also be, which is very crucial, very AI literacy at all levels. I mean, some countries have already done that, where children right from kindergarten maybe, or nursery school. How will I say it? Well, we can use nursery school since we're Africans. So right from that state, they can be taught about AI. People knowing the implications of what AI can do, even though we don't know the extent, it can be that extreme. But having knowledge about um, these issues or lapses or gaps can help people themselves to try and protect themselves, like limiting information that they share online, and learning how to um, adjust privacy settings, etc. And also employees, employers, government parastatals, and yeah, that's AI literacy at all levels, very important. Then the legal and ethical safeguards can be in ensuring that there is mandatory and context tailored impact assessment within organizations that use AI tools or that buy them and import them. And then third party certification and extraterritorial clauses can be included. Um, yes, and then we can have like a registry where we know what is coming in and what is going out. And Africans should not just be about consumption, but we should also produce. I mean, we don't even have large data centers. Everything is there in the global north. So this will clearly give advantage over, give them an edge over Africans. It is not a war. We are not at war with the global north, but we're only saying that what happened in history might repeat itself through technology, which is even worse, which might be worse than what happened centuries ago. So we are only trying to safeguard, yes, and prevent some of these things. So I put some examples from ethical AI corporate governance from South Africa, where businesses need to observe transparency and the machine bias mitigation, privacy protection, beneficial AI outcomes, and then ongoing accountability reviews. In fact, all of these things are found in the AI Act. And if we are about Africanization, we are not necessarily saying that we cannot learn from some of these instruments. We can get insights from the instruments, but not that we should copy it into, like, I saw something in the Nigerian AI strategy. I'm very sorry if anyone here participated in drafting the strategy, but it was like a screenshot trying to, reference the UAI Act and putting a screenshot on the strategy, in the strategy. So when we're doing that, we should also consider our values, our peculiarities as Africans, like they do here. Because, for example, the high risk the high risk classification of AI in the EU says that AI has to um, comply with the values of the European people. So they are very interested in the values, and naturally, we have certain differences. If a person here is possible that if you're having a love relationship with a chatbot, it doesn't seem absurd, even though some people will definitely find it as absurd. But then, eh, I mean, the level of how they think, or it can be different from ours. But in Africa, imagine having a romantic relationship with a chatbot. Everybody will rain insult at you. So things like this. So are we going to allow, for example, the AI befriend or whatever that Mark Zuckerberg was advertising the other day inside into Africa? Are we leaving the Meta AI on? Should Instagram have Meta AI, or should they create a local version of Instagram for us? Or should they remove it once it's going to be used by Nigerians or Kenyans or any African community? Is Snapchat allowed to have my AI companion in quotes? Things like that. So we should consider some of when we are trying to copy from or learning or gaining insights the from other jurisdictions, we should always put the underlying thing is us Africans. How does this work for us? So I also noted that due to risk of regulatory arbitrage, we should have binding measures that should be considered. Excuse me, and these measures can be like AI companies or anybody that is deploying AI or is importing it, or those people I mean Europeans or tech companies here um, importing it themselves, not necessarily because somebody wants to use their application for them to be vendors. They should there should be a continuous bias and privacy audit and use of privacy enhancing technologies. And then we should have regulatory sandboxes where we can test some of these applications before even putting them into real life use, like the ChatGPT wise that the government says they have started using. I don't know how true that is. They might say it's just for them to have a good image internationally that, oh, they are actually advancing, but should they actually be using it? That things like applications or tools like that should go through regulatory sandbox, and there should be public consultation before deploying such tools, because it's the government and it will definitely affect the people, regardless of whether it's for assistive duties or any serious function that it will be used for. So in conclusion, I would say that the approach to take is the home first approach, Africa first approach, and it starts from the states down, the countries down to the people. And there should be a blend of robust policies, enforceable and accountability rules, and local infrastructure like building data centers, making operation and technical functions to be carried or performed well, and then invest in pets too. By building, we should also build AI literacy, as earlier highlighted, and also be very cautious in safeguarding the African identity in order to counter the whole techno colonialism narrative. Then, yes, before we now start fostering international cooperation and trying to be on the global stage, let's first fix our home. And that's what I have to say. These are some of my submissions during the course of this discussion. And lastly, okay, maybe you should be the ones to have the opportunity to ask questions, but I actually put a question there. If anybody is interested in answering, you can just indicate and tell us, or you can drop your answers in the comment section. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very kindly. Thank you. Thank you. That was really super wonderful. Thank you, Rachel, for that presentation. You maintained a particular pace all through your presentation, and as a person, I was able to follow through, and I'm sure every other learner here also followed through. Yeah, thank you for that presentation. Now we are in the question and answer section for Rachael. So if you have any question for Rachael, please kindly raise up your hand and I'm going to let you have the floor. Any question for Rachael? Any contribution, concern? Please, it is now time for you to come up with whatever concern you have or contribution or question for discussion. And if you want to speak to the question she already put in her presentation, please, you are welcome to do so. You can also put your answer in the chat box and I'm going, either your answer or your question. I'm going to read it out aloud for everybody. Yeah. So the question from Rachael is that if you are a lawyer or in-house counsel, what will be your advice for organization to contribute in the Africanization movement? Yeah. If you are a lawyer or in-house counsel, what will be your advice for your organization to contribute in the Africanization movement? Yeah. Do we have anyone yet? You can put your question. Okay. Simon, please. Yeah. Kindly unmute and speak up. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. One of the things I would consider largely, and I think it's the most important thing, is investment. I would advocate that we invest in literacy itself. We invest in the computing sources or resources themselves. Why am I saying literacy? If we create tools that our fellow people are not able to use, then they are as good as useless. They have no productivity to them. They have no adaptability to them. Then I would look at the computing resources themselves. We so much say we want to Africanize AI. However, we rely on currently companies that are creating AI tools in Africa are being hosted by companies such as OpenAI. However, they say they are Africanizing AI, but they are relying so much on the foreign support. Then we consider the aspect of chips. I believe Africa has the potential to create the chips. We just need to work together and find a way how to. We have the aspect of power, and I think Africa is one of the greatest producers of power. We have the capacity to produce enough power to power the AI systems themselves. Now, when you go to aspects such as regulation, I think Africa takes its good time. Look at that aspect of regulation. But at least let us set some guardrails, guidelines, and principles to direct us on the most appropriate direction we can take to see that what we create is really African centric. It benefits us, it's productive and adaptive in the circumstances. Thank you so much. That's my contribution.
Yes, thank you so much, Simon. Thank you for the contribution. And indeed, I totally agree with you because, as I've mentioned too earlier, we need to invest in infrastructure and also literacy, AI literacy. But the problem is, it doesn't stop only here. Also, good governance. This is one issue that we don't mention anytime we're talking about the Africanization of AI. But we have an EU, which is bad governance. Probably when we start from there too, it might also assist. Though this is a political matter, but I feel I should raise it. Yes.
Okay. Any other question for Rachel or any contribution from anyone? As I said earlier, you can as well put either your answer to the question that Rachel has put up here that is on the slide, or you can also identify, and I'm going to call you to ask her any question based on what she has presented.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Okay, Dr. Yobode, you are welcome on board.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Dr. Yobode, you have the floor now, or was that a mistake? Oh, okay. I think
I'm sorry, that was a error. Thank you.
Okay,
That was an
all
error.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. Maimuno, please, you can speak up now. I can see that you are raising up your hand.
All right. Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon. You have
Nice session.
Yeah.
All right. On Africanizing the network, we have two contributors have already stated on the issues of are we patronizing African networks that have a stake in this AI issues that we're talking about, or we are still relying more on the foreign aspect of it. But apart from that, we have ample opportunity. We have people who are tech gurus in Africa. And even if you go to the foreign nation, you find that those of them that have African descent, they are the ones ruling. So why can't we patronize our own people, our own technology in Africa, domesticate it? If we can borrow from them, let's domesticate it. And of course, use the language that our people understand in order for us to be major players in that aspect. I think first is patronizing our own, and then be proud of what we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maimuno, for that insightful contribution. Rachel, do you have anything to say to that?
Well, I have nothing to say. She made a very important observation about patronizing our local content and also trying to be producers instead of consumers. But also, the previous speaker mentioned that even the so-called AI companies in Africa, they rely on foreign infrastructure or vendors for them to build their applications or tools, which also goes back to we are still depending on the global north. So yes, combining what the previous speaker said and what Madam Memuna observed, then bringing these two together can assist, because we need to also have centers here. We need to have, not that I'm saying the localization principle should be too strict that nothing goes out, but when it is going out, we need to ensure that privacy enhancing technologies have been used in the transmission and even when they're at rest too. And we should consider investing into our local infrastructure so that we can have the capacity to build some of these infrastructures needed to give us the independence and break us off from the over-reliance that we have on the global north when we need to build AI tools or applications.
Okay, Rachel, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Indeed, it was a nice and wonderful one. And everyone, thank you for your participation. If you have any question or anything, you can check out Rachael on LinkedIn.